This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us on our show today about adventures, Marianna Buchwald. She is the curator of International Art Adventures. Welcome, Marianna. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Good morning, Chicago. I love to be on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, first of all, Marianna, tell us
Yes,
a little bit.
I'd like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Marianna. I'm the
Mhm.
founder of International Art Adventures, and I'm talking here today from my place in Rogers Park in Chicago. And International Art Adventures was founded here in Rogers Park. I live here since 1998 in Rogers Park, and the idea of International Art Adventures is to develop bridges between cultures and artists of different cultural backgrounds. So I am from Germany. I immigrated to the United States in the 80s, and I came here with the German Peace Corps.
I think you froze a little, but I think you're back, Mariana.
Okay, so yes, I'm sorry. Maybe perception or reception.
Mhm.
I wanted to mention that the mission of our group, International Art Adventures, is to facilitate projects which create bridges amongst cultures and people from different backgrounds,
Mhm.
and create beautiful art projects that include poetry events.
Mhm.
And the idea is to honor people's languages and backgrounds and their beautiful art forms.
Mhm. Well, could you give us an example of a couple of bridges that International Art Adventures built between people of different cultures?
Absolutely, yes. Last summer, we had a big symposium in Germany with artists from Chicago that flew in three different cities, in Hanover, in Berlin, and in Sieke at a museum beautifully over there. And this summer, we are inviting those folks from Germany back here to join us here in Rogers Park again for another symposium of the arts coming up this summer. We do have an event coming up February 18, Sheridan, and we're very excited about that with music, poetry, and dance. And so we're very excited. The idea is that we do feature people that are have many different art skills. So you have visual artists. I'm a painter. I'm a performance artist. I'm also an educator in the public school system where I'm teaching through art. Uh, and that goes for a lot of the artists who are joining us here in the spring for our next events coming up February 18 in Rogers Park, and then also for a little show March 4th until the end of April, again in Rogers Park. And then, of course, in the summertime, a big symposium is Oliver Gallery on the west side of Chicago.
Mhm.
So lots of things are happening.
You mentioned that you teach at the Chicago Public Schools. When you were talking about what you teach, you kind of dropped out. What do you teach in the CPS?
I'm teaching in the after school programs. I'm teaching music, art making, theater. I'm teaching fitness through many different types of games that include interactive games amongst different groups of students. Um, I'm also teaching an art appreciation of various art forms, sculpture, painting, drawing, etc.
Mhm.
Discussing artworks from important artists, sometimes from collections at our institute. We do field trips there, and I am part of several organizations I'm a member, of course, with Oliver Gallery, which, where we organize our symposium this summer. I'm also a member with Annie Square, and I'm also a member with Phantom Gallery on the South Side. So the idea of international art adventures is to develop these bridges between different kinds of neighborhoods as well. Though we are centered in Rogers Park, we are reaching out to different neighborhoods and we're inviting artists from different neighborhoods to participate.
Mhm. So you're connecting neighborhoods. What kind of neighborhoods are you connecting, such as with Rogers Park, and what other neighborhoods?
Yes, so I'm connecting neighborhoods from Rogers Park to Bronzeville, 47th Street. The Phantom Gallery is located in Bronzeville. Oliver Gallery is located 3816 West Armitage on the west side. Annie Square is located in Logan Square. And Alma Art and Interior, a branch of Oliver Gallery, 6 South Iron Street.
Mhm. Oh. What do your fellow artists tell you that they've learned from these events when they build these when you build these bridges and they meet these totally dedicated artists, as dedicated as they are, but from totally different cultures?
The wonderful thing that artists who have joined many of those artists are still part of our group, though they live in different neighborhoods in Chicago. There's a long-term friend of mine, her name is Catherine Gauthier. She lives on the south side and at Loomis and 55th Street. She's a long-term. We know each other like almost 20 years. There is a wonderful artist in the down in the Loop, South Loop. Her name is Natalie Grabinski, a wonderful French artist who originally came to the United States from France, who is sharing her cultural visions, and she's an amazing painter and artist. There are wonderful artists, of course, in Pilsen. Latin American artists that I know for many, many years. There is Colby Gallery in Pilsen, or the Museum of, the National. And Mario Castillo is a very famous artist in Pilsen. Again, Latin American artist who's very known through, the museum. If you go to International Art Adventures, you will see all the different projects that we've done over many years. And the idea is that these artists who have joined us in different projects are sharing their own culture through music and little art visits or art salons at their own art studios. They're to of course, to experience their beautiful artworks. Here in Rogers Park, 2 days ago, we had a visit at Bishal Manander's studio. He's from Nepal. And we were delighted to see his huge textural artworks. And Bishal Manander is a long-term member with International Art Adventures. Him and we facilitate the kids' activities during the Glenwood Art Festival every summer here in Rogers Park. And so he teaches at the Art Institute. A lot of the artists who are joining us are originally coming from the School of the Art Institute. I also studied at the School of the that brings people together. So I'm very excited about that.
When you sometimes the artists work together to address some let's say political activism. Do artists ever the bridges that they build, do they work towards some activist goals, community activism goals sometimes?
Absolutely.
And Could you give us some examples of
led
that?
by Tracy Kostenbader in Logan Square.
Mhm.
Tracy Kostenbader is like the matriarch of many different art movements in Chicago, and they do wonderful projects in the Logan Square art area. I participated personally with our group, Chicago Mask Ensemble Dancers, in a group show there. The mission of any square is to bring, social change and give a voice to folks like our prominent spoken African American spoken artists, poet and spoken artist Keo Razen,
Mhm. Yes.
and Spring, of course. And yes, we want to give voice to the folks here, which are spoken artists, in regards of bringing positive change, political and activist oriented change to the world around us, bringing awareness to environmental issues, to bring, making the world a better place, in regards of peace and peace activism,
Mhm.
creating connections between older and younger artists, or families with very little means to do things. Therefore, thanks to Al Goldberg, the Glenwood Art Festival, and Dorothy Millen, who founded the Glenwood Art Festival, who created this festival to be free of charge for the families in Rogers Park. A lot of diverse cultures are able to participate in art activities,
Mhm.
and that is an essential part of our mission.
Yes. And what is your mission too? Before we go on,
What is our mission or my mission?
yes, International Art Adventures mission.
Okay, so the mission of International Art Adventures is to develop a dialogue.
Mhm.
The dialogue can happen beautifully through joint projects.
Mhm.
I'm very excited that we're going to have the opportunity to do free art making events days with people, artists from all different areas in Chicago, here in Rogers Park at 6935 North Sheridan. And as we are creating things together, folks are able to communicate through the arts, but also through their own experience. For instance, under recycles or has recycled many different things of the various places he had worked at. Dunkin' Donuts, he's collected a
Oh.
huge amount of plastic that he incorporated in his big art pieces, or the idea of plastic, turning that into something that is a substantial, beautiful piece of art, or rice bags from Nepalese restaurants. I think that was such a great experience, hearing about his experience, how he's able to use recyclables and turn them into beautiful pieces of art. There is too much waste in this world.
Mhm.
Responsibility to create a better world through art. So that's he's creating this wonderful example for us. And of course, the other artists who are painters, they work maybe with the traditional materials of paint, oil paint, or acrylic paint, canvases. Their content, their mission, if it's abstract art, or if it's landscapes, or if it's portraits, or portraits of different types of people around Chicago, or of us to share when we do figure painting and drawing workshops in Rogers Park on Sundays coming up. We are sharing our skills freely amongst one another, generously. and encouraging each other to participate in each other's projects through dance and through art and music. So it's not only the visual arts, but it's also the performing arts are included here. And I will be presenting a German poem coming up February 18th.
Wonderful.
Ulrich Buchwald, who passed away February 18 in the year of 2010. So, just encouraging folks to participate and share each other's cultures and languages through art.
Wait, thank you so much for that, Marianna. We also want to welcome a fellow wizard to this conversation. Hello, fellow wizard.
Hello, hello. You can call me the Sunday morning wizard because my show is on Sundays, Sunday mornings. Marianna, it's so nice to see you here on Wizard. I really do appreciate all of your work with the International Art Adventures. We've known each other for at least 20 years, 10, 20 decades. And you just keep on going and spreading the good art and encouraging people to make art. And we've done things together as well. So I'm really excited that you're here.
Oh, thank you so much, Bill. And it's great to see you and visit. And I'm very delighted to be part of your show. And thank you so much for letting me participate.
Yes. Did you?
I'm sorry about that. That my phone did something.
What happened?
Okay.
It does. It does when we're using. It's the day where we're doing Zooms with phones instead of videos with cameras. It's a different day.
Sure, it's a technical thing, yes.
But we were cut off a little bit. But I just wanted to mention how pleased my family was. My entire family was to hear that we were on exhibition in Germany.
Absolutely.
With photography of my dad and myself.
Oh, that's great. Yes. People in Nordstemmen at Kuno Gallery were delighted to see your father's work, celebrating, the Native American Indian people. Powwows and your father, how he dedicates himself to support artists and culture and tradition in our country. That was fantastic.
And your work with the Glenwood Avenue Arts Festival. Al Goldberg and Dorothy Milne and everybody, the GAAF team and crew. It's a tradition here in my neighborhood of Rogers Park. And
Thank you.
And it's that time of year where the weather is usually good if it's not raining, and the art is all around with the food and everything. And it's great to reconnect with all of my friends during that time, and you were there. And it was so good to see you again. It's been a little while since before the festival.
Over so many years, and being so supportive of the arts here in Chicago in general, and being open to the idea of making these connections and developing these contacts. That is such an important thing. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you.
And we used to meet over at Donk House a long time ago, down by Lawrence. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about your salons?
Okay, so yes, everybody, all artists are invited to come and join a salon. The next in Alma Art and Interiors, 3636 South Iron Street at 3 p.m., 3 to 5. And the salons are being a way of bringing artists together to share a piece of art, to discuss it, to present it, and also to talk about the process that artists have to go through over time. There are young artists and there are very established artists. Some artists, another artist may present a short excerpt of a performance piece or a poem, I'm usually showing 3 different things. I'm showing a painting, and I do a little poem. I do a performance of a German song, and other artists are sharing their skills and backgrounds. So yes, please join us for the salons. The salons are happening every other month, and they're organized through Oliver Gallery.
And I guess I don't want to take up the whole interview, but you're such an advocate for the arts. I see you on Facebook all the time, every day, practically going to a different art exhibition or event, or supporting an artist, highlighting or featuring various works of art and artists. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Tell our
Right.
listeners a little bit about that.
So yeah, don't forget to come and join us for the next International Art and Performance Salon, February 18, here in Rogers Park at the Wizards headquarters, 6935 North Sheridan at 4 p.m.
But you're all over the city, and you're international, you're worldwide. How often do you go to events all the time, it seems?
Oh yeah, absolutely. To go out and see people's exhibitions. Just recently went out. We do little field trips. We went out to Venetka to see the beautiful exhibition by Colette Wright Adams, and we saw a solo show. That was beautiful. Or we do field trips to see, exhibitions at Alma Art and Interior all the time, 3636 South Iron Street or Oliver Gallery. We do go to see art exhibitions all over town. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Absolutely.
And then maybe there's fine art, which I know you're associated with, and there's all kinds of other arts. We were making masks one year, many years ago, for the Glenwood Arts Festival.
Exactly, right. Every summer, when you go to Glenwood and right there on Pratt, right next to the Lifeline Theater, we do have a little exhibition area where you see samples of artists of the group. Usually Bishal Mananda is hanging the shows over there, and while I'm teaching, numerous families. So yes, we are practically based in Rogers Park, and we're always looking forward to the summertime and at the Glenwood Art Festival.
Well, we love you, Marianna, and your international network of international art adventures.
Oh, we love you too. Thank you so much, Bill. It's been such a great time working with you and your team. Your staff is amazing, and the diversity of your staff is also amazing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm gonna let the station manager Wizard continue on with the interview. I have to pop out, but
Okay.
it was an honor. It was an honor to speak with you on WZRD Chicago. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It was a very great honor to speak with you, and thank you so much.
All right.
Marianna, you spoke of being part of the German Peace Corps and then coming to the U.S., but how did the German Peace Corps influence you to, were you already an artist before you joined the German Peace Corps, or which came first?
Well, I was a family of artists. My mother and my father are both artists. I mean, they've passed away, but I grew up in an artist family, and they always had many exhibitions. So they exhibited us as we were fairly young children, in group exhibitions as a family. So I studied art at the Hochschule für Kunst in Hamburg. I studied theater in Essen, Professor and Falkenberg, learning about theater in Germany, and then I joined the Peace Corps in the 80s, and I wanted to become more aware of what happens political in the world, and of course I wanted to brush up on my English. So when I first moved to the United States, I found I was placed to teach theater and art at the West Side School, St. Mary's Elementary School, African American neighborhood, beautiful environment with primarily Black folks who were just vibrant. They had this vibrant dance company, Najwa Dance Company. She's the director of the after-school program there, and she became a long-term supporter and friend of mine, sponsor for my my project, Peace Corps. So I ended up teaching there for 12 years as of 83 at the West Side at St. Mary's Elementary School. So that was a significant time. I think I moved like, several times over the course of the last, 20 years to 15 different areas in Chicago. So I know Chicago inside out.
Well, we're very glad that you settled in Chicago. Was that have you lived anywhere else as I don't think so, right? Nowhere else as long as you have lived in Chicago and in Rogers Park.
Well, before I moved to Rogers Park, before 1998, I lived in Wicker Park, and then before I lived in Lincoln Park, and then before that in Uptown, not far away from Rogers Park, but it was always in Chicago.
And your contacts, of course, span worldwide. But is the network that the most let's say populated part of your network, are they artists in Chicago, would you say, or are they maybe artists in Germany?
So yeah, there are artists, of course, generally in Chicago, but there are also artists, of course, in Hanover, in Asia, in different other countries. So it's very important. Or in Evanston, for instance, we have connection to Jenny Ching Ying, an identity performance or dance company. Jenny Ching Ying from Asia has brought her dancers to Chicago, to Hanover, and one of the dancers lost her luggage. It was a big thing, but they still performed 4 days for the special festival of the Ocean Between in Hanover. So yes, the people, there's a lot of artists here in Evanston and Chicago that originally come from different parts of the world, and they are continuing their relations to other parts of the world, like Asia or the Middle East or Africa, of course, Mexico, South America. So yes, I'm very proud to say that we do have these real connections.
Would you say that you settle over here because there is such there are so many artists in Rogers Park. Is that what made you stay in Rogers Park? Or is there like so many more artists over here rather than somewhere else? And then you always
Artists,
like keep
yes.
yourself busy here because there's so much to do.
Yes. I mean, Chicago is such a great, vibrant art scene. It has so much to offer in regards of an artist community that is so very wonderfully connected. Okay, so you have artists right now who are exhibiting here on Rogers Park. They're also having shows in the suburbs in various places. Exhibition right here, 3 people here in between the suburbs and the inner city of artists. There, but the wonderful thing is, like, people do make these connections through the arts in different areas, suburbs in a city, or then cities in the Midwest, or cities all over the continent. When I first moved to the United States, I performed in New York with my friend Abba Sharif from the South Side, directed by Pink Chong. And at that time in the 80s, we had this great by Belmont area. And so Ping Chong, he immediately included people singing in different languages. He included light sculptures, dance, music in his performance projects. So the inclusion of interdisciplinary art performances and projects is something so beautiful and in San Francisco, in Boston, many different places. But Chicago, of course, is for me an outstanding city for the arts.
When you were young, and when your family, they understood, they did so much with art exhibitions, and you learned all of that as a child. It was like a, like, like let's say, someone growing up in the restaurant business and seeing everything firsthand. So when back then, art exhibitions back then, versus what you are doing now, and connecting everything together, how are they different? How have things evolved?
Well, my father he was a risk taker. He was experimental. He liked Dadaism, absurd art. He was inspired by Oskar Schlemmer, who created the triadic ballet that included, the three primary colors of and dancers moving in different ways. And he founded the Scharnier Theater Hanover, which is a mask theater with huge puppets. And the non-for-profit Scharnier Theater is his child. He founded that in 1969 in Hanover. So as part of the openings for his beautiful exhibitions in Hanover, we always performed with the puppets. And artists all over Germany as young folks. We were on our bicycles, got on the trains, we'd travel through nearby villages and areas, wooded areas, where we would find little art residencies or colonies to learn about or create a project together in the form of a film, in form of a happening.
Yeah, I think we were just a bit buffered.
Okay.
Yes, and now all these other exhibitions that you are creating, and connecting. How have they evolved from what your father was doing? Because he was a risk taker. Are you a risk taker?
Of course, I'm a risk taker. You have to be. I mean, you have to be able to be open-minded, to try different things in the arts, to allow for improvisation, to allow to not just have choreography or a directed play, but also to have the opportunity for pop-up events where people create something on the spot, maybe outside. And and in Rogers Park you have the beautiful lakefront, and I remember rehearsing things along the lakefront for our shows in the public schools. In the 90s I was directing several shows for Art Resources. We developed these beautiful plays for African American schools, or for Latin schools or Asian schools. And so I developed many different curriculums based on that. But the artists who actually performed on the lakes in the festival, at the Wall of the Art Festival in Rogers Park or in Glenwood Art Festival, they were always experimental performers, dancers, jugglers, circus folk.
Hmm.
He performed with us, 10 years ago in the festivals, uh, even at different galleries. There was a gallery on the west side that, and the gallery director, she went then to Hanover and visited my folks, and all over Germany and Hanover and Berlin. She has a son there in Berlin. So yes, there's lots of connections.
This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. We have with us at WZRD Marianna Buchwald. She is the curator of International Art Adventures. When you mentioned, Marianna, when you mentioned that the rehearsals took place on the beach and everything was improvised and experimental, that their dances sometimes the rehearsals, because they were at the lake and they were maybe inspired by the lake, do you know if any of their moves actually were transformed because of the environment, because of where they were rehearsing on the beach by Lake Michigan?
Absolutely. So, I would bring like two suitcases of masks out there along the lakefront in the summertime.
Mhm.
It's running by, and maybe the wind is getting really strong, and we're all in masks, so we have to dance against the wind with masks and costumes. Performing outside is always a challenge. Maybe a rain cloud comes, and then it's that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Outdoor performance, you have to be, you have to be able to adapt.
Would you say that such performances where you have to improvise and change are more fun, or how do they compare with the rehearsed plays that are on stage that are practically the same night after night?
Well, I like both. I like both opportunities.
Mhm.
Like in Germany last summer, we developed this humongous spectacle, Novecento, about a young child who was stuck on a ship, traveling between the continents, who grew up on the ship.
Mhm.
And we had live music by Hartmut Hecker and Wolf Rüdiger Leister, and narration in German by Harry Müller-Rothgänger. And then the wonderful dancer from Chicago, her name is Shalaka Kulkarni. She played the child who grew up to become the piano player, and she performed that live in the surrounded by all the masks. We had a very intense rehearsal process. Theater. So we are in a protective environment, special lighting by Franz Beetz, who is coming to the summer to America, who is a lighting artist, who is a very famous lighting artist. He brings his lighting and instruments, and he's going to be participating in our exhibition in the summertime. So rehearsal process. But we did have several events outdoors in the summertime, for instance, for the opening at the Christ Museum in Sieke, where the rain came down and we still did performance. Shalaka was inside of this beautiful concoction. I was doing a performance with masks and objects, and people were holding umbrellas above us while we were dancing and performing under the trees. So,
Wow. Yeah, then you had to avoid the people that were holding the umbrellas, but you still were able to put in all the steps and all the rhythms.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because if you work with really great professional musicians, we
Mhm.
always work with really great drummers, percussionists, musicians. We do work. I make sure that we have really great quality with the sound systems and etc. So thanks to all the wonderful artists, we always have really great.
Were you ever connected with Art and the Mart? Because I heard recently that they were looking for someone to curate their show. You would be the perfect person if you weren't so busy already.
Art on the Mart is an amazing opportunity for people to see on the merchandise mart, to see the projections of dance ensembles like the Joffrey Ballet, etc. I understand that's just fantastic. I'm working on a smaller scale, budgeting things, raising money to do things,
Mhm.
finding ways of making things happening. The things that we're doing for this year are primarily volunteer projects by the artists who've been working with me for many years.
Mhm.
And we have to figure out to do our own funding. So we have to figure things out for the future. But that would be a wonderful thing. Art on the Mart would be fantastic. I agree.
Well, Marianna Buchwald, would you like to tell us again about where our listeners could find out more information about International Art Adventures and just fill us in again about the upcoming dates for your events in case some of our listeners joined later in the program.
Yes. So my dear listeners and friends out there in Chicago, please come February 18, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m., 6935 North Sheridan. Adventures. And it's also, a campaign for Bill Morton as alderman. Where there is a will, there is Bill. And please do show up. It's a free event. Please join us.
And if you want to mention your salons too, maybe the next one, so that just people could plan ahead because you work so hard on these salons.
Absolutely. So yeah, thank you. On February 19 from 12 to 3, the same location, 6935 North Sheridan, that we have a free art making activity. Then we have March 12, we have the International Art Group Salon at Alma and Art and Interiors at 3636 South Iron Street. March 4th through the end of April, we do have an opening in Rogers Park at 6 p.m. on March the 4th for several weeks, again with consecutive Sundays, art making Sundays. So there are a lot of wonderful opportunities, but please, all of you, come February 18 and meet us in person.
Okay. And is there a website or maybe an email where listeners can contact you? You might have there might have been a little buffering. You might have mentioned it, but it kind of dropped out.
So yes, my email address is marbuchwald, MARBUCHWALD @gmail.com. Please send me an email and I will send you an invitation or flyer to all the events.
Okay, thank you so much, Marianna Buchwald, of Curator of International Art Adventures, for joining us here at WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM today.
Well, thank
you.